Well, Sri Lanka have beaten New Zealand by 65 runs, and they have moved now up in the WTC table, and they are really competing now, and they are the contenders at least to qualify for the WTC final in this cycle. So if we review the first test between Sri Lanka and New Zealand, New Zealand were on the commanding positions at some points. Sri Lanka, although were in the driving seat in first innings, but then New Zealand came back really well when they got bat, and then they came back when they got out Sri Lanka. Then eventually Sri Lanka came back in the fourth innings. So it was a complete test match, a complete test efforts, and the match was turning like a pendulum. So I was really excited before the series as well, and the series got onto the jawline as well, because if we see, it's been not the surface, not the kind of surface, goal surface, the kind of surface that provides too much spin in the early part of test match, in early 2 3 days, first 2 3 days it was not spinning too much. Then on the fourth or fifth day, or maybe in the later part of the third day, the ball was turning, and there was help for spinners like Ajaz Patel and Prabhajai Surya from Sri Lanka. So let's talk about Sri Lanka's point of view. As they are moved up in the WTC table, they are they are on number 3 right now with the percentage of 50%, and just behind Australia, who are 62%, and India on number 1 with 71%. Definitely there's a big gap between all three teams, but Sri Lanka can do this. If they manage to win the very next match as well, they will move. They will not move only up on the WTC table, but with a healthy percentage as well. As Sri Lanka was on fourth position with the percentage of 42, and New Zealand on third position with percentage of 50, and it's been vice versa. Sri Lanka with 50% now, and New Zealand with 42%. So if we talk about Sri Lanka's perspective, according to performance wise, they have been, I think, positive. They have got some positive things from that win against England in the Oval, because the way they have come back a couple of times in the test match at home, that's been really impressive. Their batting showed some good things. All the batters contributed almost. In the first innings, it was Kamindu Mendes who provided them a platform, a good respectable total, with some partnerships of Chandimal, then Dhananjay D. Silva in second innings, and a big score by Dimut Karunaratne, and some sort of good contributions for Kusal Mendes in first innings, and then in second innings Angelo Matthews. So it was a complete team effort if we talk about in batting, but in bowling, it was it was Prabhajai Surya who single-handedly destroyed New Zealand batting lineup, because he cleaned up 9 wickets. He ended up with 9 wickets, with 4 wickets in the first innings and 5 in the second innings. Ramesh Mendes was also impressive. He supported his partner really well. He got 3 wickets in the second innings, and he was quite nice in first innings. Then Dhananjay D Silva gave some breakthroughs, and at times he was also effective as well. But Jayasuriya was the architect of this bowling lineup of this win against New Zealand. New Zealand's perspective, there have been positives. One of the positives, one of the first priorities positives is William O'Rourke. He's young, just 23-year-old, and the way he's bowling in subcontinent conditions in Sri Lanka, that's been impressive, because he's replacing the likes of Trent Boult, who've just who've just retired from international cricket, and Neil Wagner, because New Zealand, sorry, have lost two experienced seamers in Neil Wagner and Trent Boult for not a very long time. So William O'Rourke replacing that legacy, is always really hard, but he's paying off in the faith that's been invested in him really well. Then another young batter, this time the batter, young player, Rachin Ravindra, who played a very fine knock in second innings. If he would have some support from another end, the result could have been some different. So Rachin Ravindra in middle order is a positive sign for New Zealand. So New Zealand can motivate them in the second test match by these small things, by William O'Rourke and an innings from Rachin Ravindra. They were not actually far behind from winning this test match against Sri Lanka. They tried really well, and they were at the top position, as I said, at some times, at some contests of the game. But Sri Lanka, at the end, Sri Lanka were the better team. Sri Lanka were actually the better team to prevail in the end. So in second test match is not far away as well, and my expectations are really high with Sri Lanka, and if they manage to win the second test match as well, they will be really in contention for the WTC, for the finals of WTC in this cycle.